Hey everybody. Oh, why have I got reverb on? I wasn't expecting that. Hello everybody, good evening. Jesse Smith here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I've just realised I've also got one too many buttons undone for a Monday night anyway. How are we all? Thank you so much for coming on. I said I was going to do this more regularly. Here I am. Please let me know if you can see me, hear me. There was some reverb going on there, but hopefully it's gone now. I've got a few questions going on already, so we'll jump straight into them in a sec. Let me just see who we got online. Got a few familiar faces as always. Sounds like some people are on holiday as well. Let's start with this question. Straight in at the deep end, what is your favourite song ever written, and is it your favourite to sing? The thing is with this, so this is from TM Fender, who's obviously a guitar fan. The thing is, right, that changes all the time. And if you'd have asked me that same question a year ago, it would have been different probably, and it changes depending on what stage you're at in life, I think, doesn't it? You know. Favourite song ever written? Jeez. I always used to say that my favourite song ever was a song called Bad by U2. And I did a cover of it with some friends of mine during the pandemic. And there's something about the performance that U2 did at Live Aid. I know obviously Queen stole the show, and that performance by Queen is absolutely unbelievable. Obviously, that Queen are also one of my favourite bands. But there's something about the performance of U2 singing Bad that just kind of blew my mind when I was younger. It's so there's sort of no form to it. They do the song, and then he just sort of goes down into the crowd and grabs a girl out of the crowd and sort of hugs her. And I think they only end up playing like 2 songs in the 15 minutes they were there. And for me, it was just amazing. And his voice back then was so powerful, so strong. The lyrics really got me as well. So there's something about that song by U2. So if you ever get a chance, go and check out Bad by U2 from The Unforgettable Fire. It's also one of my favourites to sing, but I don't think I've ever done it live apart from on that video. If you can hear panting in the background, it's my poor dog who is absolutely boiling, bless him. So that was from TM Fender. Thank you so much for asking that first question. Some of you might be wondering who the hell I am. You just stumbled across me on YouTube. So just really quickly, for those of you that don't know who I am and haven't got a clue, why is this dude on speaking online? I'm a rock session singer, songwriter, and I have a career in music. I live in London. I'm so lucky I get to tour all over the world with various different bands, and I just want to kind of start talking about what that means. And if anyone's out there and they're trying to think like, oh, how can I get into the business, or somebody's offered me this money for this gig, is that a good deal? Is that a bad deal? Or how do I figure out like singing lessons, or how do I do X, Y, Z? I want to try and give back and help people a bit. And I also want to connect with some of you that are fans of mine. I want to know more about the process or behind the scenes or whatever it is that I'd be doing. I also have a Patreon page, which is kind of my real inner circle. So yeah, that's who I am and what I do. If you've got any questions, please stick them in the comments, and I'd love to hear from you. So Joe, who is one of my patrons actually, who's also tends to be my tech support when something goes wrong, he's put, I wondered if you use different guitar strings on tour than what you'd use at home or in the studio. I know some players who'll play with heavier gauge strings on tour. So in my style of guitar playing, I've always been like the second or third guitar player in the band, Joe. The band Joe, not banjo. And so I tend to play rhythm, and I've always tended to play quite heavy. So I prefer heavier guitar strings. So sometimes I remember on the last tour I was using, I think I was using 12s on an electric, which is really heavy. And the guitar tech was like, wow, why are you using acoustic strings on electric? But the truth is, I play acoustic and electric, so actually I don't mind if they're sort of similar. because I'm not doing a lot of bending and doing a lot of soloing, you know. So for me in general, I like really heavy strings. And but the truth is, quite often on tour. So this is a little nuanced thing on tour, right? How much is a decent pack of strings these days? Like probably quite expensive, right? So you're looking at like 15 quid, roughly, I guess. I tend to buy them in bulk, but so sometimes a tour will just have strings. So you know the guitar tech will buy them, and then the company pays for them. So sometimes, even though I would prefer different strings, I'll just use whatever they have because it saves me hundreds of pounds on tour. So that's the truth, you know, which, but it just depends on the tour, you know. Sometimes we have guitar techs who really look after our guitars. On other tours, excuse me, I'll turn my email off. On other tours that I do, you know, I might just take my guitar and a few packs of strings and that's it, you know, depending on how much I'm playing. So I hope that answers the question, mate. But I'm a heavy boy. I like the strong strings. Steve Tosh, good evening, mate. Steve says, hi, Jesse, hope all is well. Here's a question. What's your thoughts on artists using auto-tune on stage and using pitch correction in the studio? My thoughts are that for me, the reason I got into music in the first place and the reason that I love live performance is that it's live, right? And I love, when you listen to those old Motown records, and I've actually been to Motown, and you go in that room and it's not a big room, and you can literally hear everything bouncing off the walls and the volume and the vibe in that room on those records, and it's just amazing. And some of the vocals aren't perfect. Some of the horns aren't perfect. Some of the drums aren't perfect. Some of the bass players might make a mistake. Like there's a famous one, A Communication Breakdown by Led Zeppelin. John Paul Jones forgets to go to the chorus, plays a totally wrong note, and they left it in. Like for me, imperfection is what makes music so human and so beautiful and so brilliant. And the reason I love live music is that there's jeopardy involved. So when you go and see a band, I like the fact that it could all fall apart at any minute, you know. And we've all been to gigs where something's happened, and that's the thing you remember. You go, oh, it was mad. This bird flew on the stage, and they had to start the song again, or the laptop broke, or you know, that happens more nowadays. Or he broke a string, you know, in the middle of the song, and he kept playing. You know, they're the things that I love. So, but I know that in a lot of modern pop music, people like that sound, and it's not even necessarily that they're cheating and trying to sound better on stage. I think it's just the sound of those records, and they feel this pressure to be perfect every time. So I'm aware that some artists will use auto-tune on stage. I'm not a fan of that type of music, so it's not really for me to say what's good and bad. I don't like it, and I think it's, you know what I mean? But then I'm not the target audience. So if there's a fan of that music, and I don't even know, I'm not even going to start suggesting artists that might do this because I don't really know, but I know people do. But like, if they use auto-tune live and they think it sounds good and the audience likes it, who am I to say? Do you know what I mean? I'm just a rock singer. Like, I don't like it. I wouldn't want it used on my voice live. So that's it, really. The studio is a slightly different thing because nowadays we've got the ability to record a performance, and you could do it live even, and then go into Pro Tools or Logic and just fix something. And it's a funny one because everyone is so used, because of all this other stuff, because of auto-tune, because of the way that everything is mixed and produced these days, people are used to these amazing sounding, perfect vocals, right? That actually quite often aren't real. So they've all been tuned and melodined and whatever. But what it does do is it leaves people like me and other singers that are trying to do it totally live. We sound worse than everything else on the internet because even though we are singing it totally live and there is those imperfections, some people go, that, you know, even subconsciously, oh, that doesn't sound perfect. And that's because it isn't. So what I would say is, if there is something that I thought to myself, oh, I sang it better in the rehearsal, or I could do that better, then maybe to pitch shift one note that I was a bit flat on a recording is fine, you know. But if you're pitch shifting everything and correcting it, I think that's a different thing. Do you know what I mean? So I'm less averse to using pitch correction in the studio. And I know, because I'm a session singer, right? So I go into different studios and I sing for producers. And I'm sure that they tune my vocals all the time, because what I sing won't always be perfectly in tune, because nobody is, right? So, yeah, I hope that answers your question, Steve. That's kind of how I feel about it. Just going to scroll down a minute. Jill says, auto-tune is cheating, in my opinion. I prefer to hear an authentic performance, and as long as I think and as you say, I think the imperfections make it. Yeah. I found the Strictly Celine Dion, and it was not too bad if you wouldn't have mentioned it. I wish I could go back and fix that one, honestly. All right, let's go back and have a look at a few more of these questions. Welcome, everybody, if you just joined us, by the way. Jill says, oh, this is a deep one. How do you handle unwanted attention from fans? The reason I wondered that is a friend told me about a story about being followed into the gents' loo by a female fan and having to escape from them. Scary. Yeah, I've actually had some pretty scary experiences in the past. I'm not going to go into too much detail on here, but like to the point where I kind of had to get the police involved, and it is really scary, actually, because I think the world we live in now, right? I mean, look at this, right? It's Monday night and I'm online and I'm putting myself out into the world and I'm speaking to you guys, right? And I'm putting myself out there, and I genuinely love the connection that I make with all you guys and people at shows and all around the world. That's the beautiful thing about doing what I get to do, is meeting people. But also, the flip side to that is that people can think that they know you better than they do, and they can start reading things into what you're saying, or you know, they can think that they can think that they know you, and that can go very, very wrong, and it has happened to me, and I'm sure it's happened to lots of other people in the music business, and it can get scary, and even just I think there's a line that you have to draw for yourself as an artist and as a person, and I feel like I'm quite good at making a joke out of it. It's like I will come on here and I will be honest and authentic with you guys, and if I don't want to answer something, I'll just tell you, right? Because everybody's got to keep some things for themselves, right? Everybody's got to keep some things private. But if somebody asks me something really personal when I'm doing a signing after the Classic Rock show or something, sometimes I'll make a joke out of it and I'll go, that's not your fucking business, you know, because sometimes it's just not. My dog's crying. I'm going to let him out because he's very hot, bless him. Give me 2 seconds and I will continue my rant. Come on, Bruno. I'm back. Are you all still here? Wow. So yeah, it can get scary. I think that all you can do is try and be friends with people, try and be kind to people, and then maybe gently or even jovially let them know if you're uncomfortable with something, you know, because at the end of the day, we're very lucky to do what we do, and we couldn't do it without having fans and having the support, and I love that, obviously. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. Again, I'm not going to go into too much detail about that because it's pretty dark, actually. So TFM Fender again says, have you ever gone to take out the Finland special after complete have you ever completely restrung a guitar to have a new string not stay? I guess so. I think every now and then you can just get a dodgy string in the packet, and then you just have to get a new one. So, Yeah. Mandy. Hi, Mandy. Travelled over from France for the last 2 years for, I'm guessing you mean CRS, Classic Rock Show, and coming again to London in January. If you had free reign to choose any rock song for the set, what would it be? Love the leopard print, by the way. Thank you so much. This is actually a little set. It's like a shirt and shorts, but I'm not wearing the shorts currently. Well, firstly, Mandy, thank you so much for coming to see us. We really appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you in January. I think I might have touched on this on the last stream, but there's a few Led Zeppelin songs I've been dying to do. There's Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You, and there's Since I've Been Loving You, two of my favourite Led Zeppelin songs. If I had to pick between the two, it would be Since I've Been Loving You. I've never done that with Classic Rock Show. It's a blues song, really, and it's one of my favourites to sing. So yeah, that would be what I would choose. But then my music taste in general is not really like a standard Classic Rock Show, classic rock set, classic rock radio set. So I love Bob Dylan and Joni Mitchell, and obviously when I was growing up, it was bands like Snow Patrol and who else? Kings of Leon and The Killers. That's what was all coming out. Arctic Monkeys when I was a teenager. But the stuff I love from back in the day is 60s, 70s, the Beatles, Queen, The Who, Rolling Stones, which is a little different to the classic rock genre as a whole, which the centre of that, if you were drawing a spider diagram, might be bands like Whitesnake and Deep Purple, and all of whom I also love, but my centre is probably somewhere nearer the sort of singer-songwriter end of the scale, if that makes sense. I love storytelling and great songs and great melody, which is why my 1971 show is also a really good fit for me, because it allows me to do more of that stuff. Thanks for the question, Mandy. Ray Williamson. Oh, let's clear this up. Did I read you ain't touring with Classic Rock Show in Feb? Is this correct? No, that's not correct. So let me just clear this up for everybody. And this is a really this is the sort of best and worst thing about being a professional session musician as well, right? When you're a hired gun like I am for different projects, right? You don't always have like autonomy over when things get booked, obviously. So a show like the Classic Rock Show, I've been doing it for coming up 7 years. It's been going for 15 years or something. So they have their venues that they book every year, and they try and book them out, and they try and secure the date. Sometimes it starts on the 4th of January, sometimes it starts in the middle of January, sometimes it finishes end of March, sometimes it finishes mid-February, just depending on their strategy and their, whatever. And I've also been super lucky to have toured last year with Rick Wakeman, legendary keyboard player from the band Yes, played on Life on Mars by David Bowie, Morning Has Broken, all these amazing songs, as well as his incredible solo material, right? And that gig is like a dream gig for me. I absolutely love playing with those guys. The band are amazing. The singers that I get to work with on that, the backing singers, are amazing. And it just so happened that the end of the Classic Rock Show tour and the start of the Rick Wakeman tour cross over by a week. And there's just nothing I can do about it, Rick Wakeman is not going to move his tour because of me, and the Classic Rock Show aren't going to move their tour because of me. So it comes down to like them both asking me, which is amazing, and then me just having to decide, how can I make the most people happy? Obviously, financially comes into it as well. Sometimes, I'm not saying that this particularly comes into it on this occasion, but sometimes you might get offered a gig, and then you might get offered another gig and one slightly better paid, because we're all freelance musicians, So to answer your question in a very long-winded way, essentially, there's a week at the end of February, which I'm then jumping onto the Rick Wakeman gig. I believe it's from the 17th of February. And I'm gutted about it, because there's nothing I'd love more than to do every single gig, obviously. So from the 17th of February, I'll be with Rick Wakeman, which means I missed the last few shows in the UK with the Classic Rock Show, and unfortunately it means I won't be coming to Europe this time with the Classic Rock Show. but I will definitely be there for the whole rest of the tour. If you'd like to ask me specifically about a date, please just drop me a message or an email. You can contact me via my website as well. Julie, hi Julie, how are you? Julie says, if you could meet any artist or group from past or present, who would it be and why? If I could meet any artist, I mean, my sort of north star of music has always been the Beatles, always. And I know it's like maybe a boring answer, but Paul McCartney's always been my kind of idol and my hero, for all the reasons I was talking about earlier. Singer-songwriter, incredible musician, amazing voice, amazing bass player, you know. So he definitely be up there. And then obviously all the others. I mean, how amazing would it have been to hang out with the Beatles, you know? So I think probably the Beatles, followed very, very closely by Queen. And I've been very lucky. I've met Roger Taylor on multiple occasions and actually sung with him once on stage. But obviously I never got to meet Freddie Mercury because he died when I was really little. But I never got to see him perform. So Queen are also just absolute heroes of mine. Like I'm sure they are to all of you guys on here. If you're fans of rock, I'm sure the Beatles and Queen are really high on your list as well. So yeah, thank you so much. Speaking about Queen, we've got It's Kevin. It says, is there a Queen song that you would love to play on tour but haven't been able to? And he also said that is one cool shirt, mate. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate that. Queen songs. So Queen songs we haven't done. My favourite Queen song is actually one called Save Me. It started off so well. Said we made a perfect pair. That, like, it's just so beautiful. And then when the chorus kicks in, it's like you can see it's very me. It's like melodic and sweet, and then it kicks ass in the chorus, you know. And it's so it's like a mixture of kind of rock and beauty. So I absolutely love that. Another one I did a Queen symphonic show in Belfast a few months ago, and I'm doing the same gig in Liverpool on New Year's Eve, this New Year's Eve coming. So playing Queen songs with a big orchestra. And the song I got to sing was It's a Hard Life, which I'd never done before. And I love that song so much, and I think that would be great in the Classic Rock Show as well. The thing is with Queen, they're one of those bands you could kind of do any of their songs in the Classic Rock Show. You could do It's a Kind of Magic, or Another One Bites the Dust, or Radio Gaga, or We Will Rock You, or, you know, there's so many songs we could do. So I don't hold my breath for them letting me do Save Me, but that's probably my favourite that we haven't done. Diane says, sad you're not at Norwich Theatre all next year. Me too, Diane. Absolutely love coming there. So again, I don't know the deal. I don't know whether the theatre's fully booked or whatever it is. So Joe's talking about strings again. The best brand is the free one. That is totally right. Totally right. This is Maggie. Hi, Maggie. Sorry, my nickname dates from a long time ago. That's okay. Do you play any other instruments besides guitar and piano? I mean, I can play a little bit of bass. I wouldn't call myself a bass player, though, in any way. What else can I play? Do you know what? I'm not bad at percussion. I'm not a drummer at all. But yeah, that's about it, really. I played recorder when I was a kid. Am I forgetting something? Like ukuleles and things, you know, other kind of stringed instruments, but that's about it. The beauty of what I do is that I'm surrounded by so many amazing musicians all the time. I just get them to play for me. It's much better because they're really good. There's Jamie online. Hi, Jamie. Jamie asks, is singing your full-time income, and do you ever worry about work drying up, or is there plenty of work being an established artist? Do you have to look for the work, or does it come to you? Thank you. This is a very nuanced question, Jamie. And again, if you'd have asked me that 5 years ago, when we were just about in the middle of a global pandemic, then it would have been a very different answer. I look at my career in kind of phases, really. And it obviously changes as you change as a human being as you get older, and your your kind of mindset shifts a little bit, or at least mine did, in terms of the business as a business, you know. When I was I've never really I've done other things, but I've never been anything else than a freelance musician since I was 23 years old. So I've never done any jobs to make money apart from kind of being in the creative industry. I did once do some video editing, like 2 days a week, but I mainly did that because I wanted to learn how to video edit so I could do it for my bands and stuff. And I made a few extra quid doing that. But I've been very, very lucky. I've always managed to make money as a singer, which is kind of a success in itself, isn't it? You know, people always think like, you know, I always think that when people say, you know, when you're in a pub and someone drunk comes up to you and says, oh, you know, have you ever thought about doing X Factor? I just think if you only knew, you know, what I've done in my career and how hard it is to just survive and make a living in London, one of the most expensive cities there is, you know. So essentially, when I was younger, I would kind of, obviously my outgoings were a lot less than they are now. So I lived in rented accommodation with some friends, which kept the rent down. You know, there was like 4 of us living in a house, and we'd go out and we'd do gigs. We'd do pub gigs and we would do wedding gigs. And if I could get the odd session here and there, I would, but that didn't really come till a lot later. And I was lucky. So up until I was 23, just to rewind a little bit, I was working in the music department of my old school. And I was sort of learning a bit of how to record, and I would do the sound for the school concerts, and I would help kids with their coursework, and I would sing on their music technology recordings and stuff like that. So even that was like a good training. But that was my sort of proper job, really, my first proper job when I was 21, and I did that for like 2 years-ish. And then I got an audition for a kind of off West End show. And after a few auditions, I got that gig. And that was like 3 months on a theatre tour. And then that really got my foot in the door of the industry. And I was at that point, I'd done like lots of theatre when I was a kid, but like only amateur. An amazing local theatre company called Starmaker in my hometown. But it was never professional. It was doing shows and stuff. So it was a lot of experience, but never professional. So that was my first pro gig, really. And it was sort of like an off West End touring theatre thing. My friend Kelly, who was on that show, was one of the singers. She was a bit further down the line in the kind of musical theatre world. And her agent came to see her, and he then offered to sign me. So I suddenly went from working in a school to doing this one audition, getting this gig, and then having an agent. And the first audition that he sent me to was for a West End show called Thriller Live, and I got the gig. So I was so lucky. Obviously, I know I had to have sort of a bit of natural ability or whatever, but I very quickly found myself on a 10-month professional tour, and then being in the West End. And so I was sort of very, very lucky. But then when that finished and I decided I didn't want to do the West End thing anymore, I sort of went right back to gigging again. And then it was sort of same as before I was working in the school. It was playing pubs and doing weddings. And I was in a Led Zeppelin tribute band for a long time. And, all sorts of things, just taking any gigs that were offered to me. And then I would go and if I had no work, to answer another one of your questions, you have to look for the work. Back then, I literally would go into pubs and say, can I do a gig here? Or I would, look up live music venues and go in there physically and go, can I do a gig here? Will you pay me? And to be honest, I've always been somebody that tries different projects. I'd like start an agency and then try and book some other people, and then that didn't work out very well. And then during the pandemic, I did a podcast, and I always just try things to make money, and then some things stick. And then basically my tours these days, they just get closer and closer together, sometimes too close, obviously, like this one that crosses over. But essentially, the better known you are, the more people that know you, the more people that have worked with you and know that you're good to work with, the more job offers you get. And honestly, I haven't really had to look for work now for a number of years. It just comes to me. People will email me, can you record this song for me for this advert? Or I've got a gig. Like, for example, I had a call this week. It's a gig in Dublin on Sunday. Do you want to come and do this gig in Dublin on Sunday? And I can just say yes or no, and that is so lucky. But I also would say it's the type of musician I am as well has really helped me, because I'm a singer that plays guitar and I'm the front man of a band. So I think that's quite often what people need for stuff. I know it can be really hard. I was actually chatting to my friend Ross about this yesterday. If you don't have a specific thing, if you're just not like I'm saying just, but if you're a great drummer, you might not necessarily know exactly where you want to be, and it might be a choice between you and 100 other drummers. Whereas me, it's probably a choice between me and 10 other people. You know what I mean? Because there's not that many people out there doing what I do to that level. There's plenty of great singers out there, but in terms of the experience and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I hope that answers the question. That there is work out there. You do have to find it. It does take time, and I think you just have to be nice to people along the way, be good at what you do, and then eventually you get more and more work, basically. Susan says, "Hi Jesse." Hi Susan. "Is there a piece of equipment that audiences never notice but makes a huge difference to your performance?" Piece of equipment. Well, the one for me, where is it? The one for me that you would never see is this bad boy. And other brands are available, but this is called a nebulizer. So this little device right here, it's quite funny. I walk around a venue and it looks like I've got a massive vape, or like I'm smoking crack or something. But basically it looks like this, and you press the button, you put saline solution in it, and then you breathe. And what that does, it hydrates my vocal cords. And I do that 2 or 3 times a day when I'm on tour. Every singer is different. I love using this. And that's something that I take on tour with me all the time. It counteracts the kind of dryness of being on aeroplanes and tour buses. And there's plenty of different ones available. But I think, obviously, the main thing about singing is having great technique. But in terms of devices that you can actually take with you, having a nebulizer as a singer, I think, has been something that stood me in really good stead, and has helped. Is one of the small things that keeps my voice healthy. And other things, like, I want to shout out my friend Gary, who made this cable for me the other day. Like, things like cables, having a proper cable. It's even got my name on it. Look, wee, Jesse Smith. Having a proper cable, spending that money on cables. That's my mate who works in Denmark Street. Stuff like that is just so essential. And you'd never notice it until it stops working, right? So if you've got a proper cable, then you know your gear's always going to work. So yeah. Hi, Mandy. Mandy says, "Is there a song that is not a rock genre that you would choose to create a rock version of?" There's plenty of songs that aren't rock necessarily that I'd love to sing. Like I mentioned earlier, I love Motown. I love the Bee Gees. I love, I don't know. Make a rock version of. I'll have to come back to you on that one. Simon Legs 5150. "Hi Jesse, you mentioned a while back that you wanted to up your guitar playing skills. Have you made any progress?" I was actually thinking this the other day as well, because I did a gig with a friend of mine called Bobby Harrison, who's an amazing guitar player, and he teaches guitar. He's created loads of online courses and stuff like that. And I was thinking, I started doing his course about 2 years ago and never finished it. But for me personally, just the type of musician I am, I started playing guitar and playing piano so that I could accompany myself. And I think I've succeeded in that. I can basically blag my way around most things. I'm not the best guitar player in the world. I'm not the best piano player in the world. But if I practice enough, I can play most stuff that I need to. And so I've definitely got better at playing guitar. I'm like in a show that I did recently, like I'm pretty comfortable playing stuff like Wish You Were Here, you know, which has a solo in it, and you know, stuff like that I'm comfortable doing now that I wouldn't have been a few years ago. But man, you can always get better. But luckily for me, I get booked because I can sing, not because I can play guitar. Otherwise, I'd be an out of work guitar player, I think. Ray Williamson 7451 says, "I see you in Edinburgh on your solo tour. Your metronome is out of tune. My metronome is never out of tune. I will not have that said." Kim says, "I saw a band last week, Coda, and Jimmy broke a string, but it was covered by the drummer and singer covered while he fixed it, and they were still awesome." Yeah, well, exactly. You know, that's what we love about live music, isn't it? Absolutely. Serena, good evening, Serena. Serena Lane says, "Hi, Jesse. Good to see music can be played in many sorts of buildings, and the acoustic can be very different in each place. Do you have a favourite building you've played in?" Well, I've got an amazing one coming up this month, actually. On the 20th of this month, I'm playing in St Pancras Old Church, which is one of the oldest churches in London. There's an amazing Beatles photo shoot that happened there in like 1968, which is just amazing. And so I'm really looking forward to that. But there's loads. There's places like the Acropolis in Athens, which I've mentioned before, the Odeon of Herodes, which is on the side of the mountain in Athens, one of my favourites. I've played in Taormina before, in Sicily, in the ancient amphitheatre there, which was amazing. I've played at the London Palladium. I mean, that has an amazing vibe and an amazing sound. I love playing at Birmingham Symphony Hall. I don't know why. It's just a beautiful venue, and they did an amazing job on the sound in there. And I've played there so many times over the last few years. So yeah, you're right. I mean, there's so many different types of rooms, and some are better than others for different reasons. You know, like some of the rooms that are more beautiful and sort of like old cathedrals and stuff like that, they're actually a bit of a nightmare for sound sometimes. Yeah, there's loads of venues I love playing. So yeah, sorry, I am reading all of your comments. Let's just keep going with the questions. Nigel says, "Hi Nigel." Nigel Harris 9517 says, "Evening. We grew up with TV programs like Rock Goes to College, The Old Grey Whistle Test, Top of the Pops. Do you think modern music is suffering from not having the exposure to the audience we had in the 70s and 80s? That's a really good question. My friend Pete Thorne says this in a really brilliant way, and I'm going to totally steal what he says. So he uses this, what I'm about to say, in a slightly different context about up and coming artists. But what I will say is, the bad news is you have to do everything yourself nowadays, right? But the good news is you can do everything yourself. Does that make sense? So, like, again, using this right now as an example, I'm sat here in my studio and I'm live whenever I feel like it to the whole universe, and they can all choose to watch me or not, right? So I think that part of it, you could argue, is easier, but what it's done is created a whole kind of ocean of stuff. Whereas back in the day, like you said, you had those sort of pillars of society, pillars of music, the Old Grey Whistle Test. If you were on there, that meant you were good, you know? Whereas now, I'm not sure whether people kind of necessarily know the difference between something they've seen online that's really well produced. Some people do, obviously, but just because you've got 1 million followers doesn't make you a good musician. You know what I mean? And some of them are amazing, obviously. And I've got 7,000 followers on Instagram, I think. So again, it's like, it depends it depends how you judge these things. I judge it on how I feel when I listen to an artist singing and performing. and what kind of stages they're performing on, and how they interact with the crowd and all that stuff. That's how I judge stuff. But I think modern music, to answer your question, because I've sort of gone off piece a little bit here, I do think it's definitely different. And I think the lack of a mainstream and the fact it's so diluted has to have a negative effect. And the thing is, like the whole streaming thing is just total bollocks, like, really. I mean, for the music industry, it has totally killed it, because there's literally no money at all in music sales anymore. Whereas back in the day, you could put a song on Top of the Pops, people would see it, people would go out and buy it, and the artist would make money, or the record company would make money, and it's just not like that anymore. You know what I mean? So I get like a few £100 a year probably from the stuff that I've written in terms of royalties. Obviously, I've not had any big hits or whatever, and I made a decent. I probably made my money back on the £10,000, whatever it was, making my album. But it definitely would have been different if I was releasing that in the 70s or in the 60s, 100%. And I don't think labels, like the idea of taking an artist and helping them with their career and spending money on their image and their look and their sound and merging them into this new David Bowie or this new Kate Bush, it just doesn't happen anymore. You have to already be a thing for a record company to even look at you. I think you need. My friend who works for a publishing company told me that you need at least 10 million followers on TikTok before they'll even look at you, which is kind of an indication of where the industry is right now. On that happy note, Fiona says, how's the new album writing coming along? It's coming along, Fiona. I'd say we're 2/3 of the way along writing, and then we've got to start recording it, basically. But thank you for asking. I'm really, really proud of the songs and how they're coming along, and I can't wait to show you guys. Dora says, hi Dora, if you could sing or play along with any band or person, dead or alive, who would you choose? See, this is a really hard one, because the ones that spring to mind are like Freddie Mercury, obviously, but then what am I going to do in that band? Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm a great front man, but I'm not Freddie Mercury, so I think I'd rather just watch Freddie Mercury in that instance. So let's go a bit rogue. If I could just have a band. Do you know what I'll say? I'll say Led Zeppelin, because Robert Plant doesn't want to do it anymore. So Jimmy Page, John Paul Jones, and John Bonham. In sort of, if I was born in the 70s and Robert Plant couldn't be bothered to do it anymore and John Bonham hadn't have died, that would have been a dream gig for me. I'd also love to sing with Deep Purple or something like that. That'd be awesome, wouldn't it? Or do like a duo tour with Paul McCartney. That would be lovely as well. Just, I could be John for a few hours. Oh dear. Sorry, there's so many comments, you guys, and I'm sort of quite far back, so I'm going to try and Sharon Clues. Hi Sharon. She was talking about Save Me, I think. I love that song too. Kevin's asking about George Harrison. Do you agree that the idea that George Harrison was severely overlooked and underrated during his time with the Beatles? All Things Must Pass is one of my favourite albums of all time. I think it's so easy, isn't it, to talk about. I don't think George Harrison's underrated, to be honest with you. I think George Harrison, because you only got to look and see what he did after the Beatles split up, like All Things Must Pass, like the concert for Bangladesh. He sold a lot of records, sold at Madison Square Garden, that concert. And nobody was going, oh, it's only George, John and Paul won't be there. Do you know what I mean? So I actually don't think George Harrison was overlooked. I think maybe during the time, but I've got no idea because I wasn't there. So George has written some of my favourite songs of all time. I mean, Something, Here Comes the Sun, All Things Must Pass is just a beautiful album. So, yeah, I don't know, man. Do you guys think George Harrison was underrated? I think it's just because, unfortunately for him, he was in a band with two of the most genius artists, songwriters of all time. I think that's the thing. So, yes. Kaz is asking about It's a Hard Life. Yes, I think so. I don't have the set list yet, but I think so. Kevin again. What do I think of John Deacon as a bass player? I think he is underrated. I think when you look at like lists of bass players, I think John Deacon's got to be up there, man. His bass lines are insane, like incredibly amazing. So love him so much. I also love the way when Freddie went, he just sort of sailed off into the sunset and was like, I'm just going to do my thing, you know? That's pretty badass if you ask me. Hi, Emma. Emma Wise says, hi, Jesse. How do you handle your nerves before you go on stage? I think you just learn to sort of deal with them over time. I don't really get that nervous these days. I get excited. Funny enough, I started rehearsals this week for War of the Worlds, and I was nervous actually because I was doing dialogue for the first time since ever really, since those real early days that I was talking about earlier. So I had to recite lines and act with somebody. I'm really looking forward to that tour, by the way. But that was pretty nerve-wracking, and that was just in the rehearsal, So I think I'll be nervous when it comes to that gig. But for me, I've said this before, I think, but for me, nerves are sort of natural, and obviously you want to have them. But for me personally, when you get onto the stage, you should be at the point where everything you're about to do is second nature. You've learnt the songs, you know them inside out. You're not thinking about the lyrics, you're not thinking about the chords, you're not thinking about where you're going to be on stage, you're not thinking about what you're going to wear, you're not thinking about what you're going to have for dinner. You're just in the moment, and that is like the freedom of having done the work, right? So I spend hours in this little studio where I am right now practicing and learning the words to songs and routining them and playing the guitar part. And then if I mess it up, I do it again, and I do it again, and I do it again, and I do it again. And I really put the time in. And then when I'm out walking the dog, I listen to the songs and repeat. If I'm on a long drive, I listen to the songs and repeat. And it can get boring, but you have to do that, I think, if you want to have the song so deeply ingrained in your body that it's second nature. If you can get to the point where it's in your subconscious, then it's not about you anymore. It's about the audience. And then you can go up there with confidence instead of nerves. And that's how I sort of think about life. I know that even though I'm sort of obviously sometimes you get worried about what people think about you and am I going to mess up that line or am I going to mess up that word? Because sometimes things happen, right? But I know that by the time October comes around and I do the first gig of War of the Worlds, I'm going to know it so well that I won't mess up because I don't know it, And that really helps with nerves if you know it. I think if you're unprepared, it can make you really nervous, but that's because, or you're ill, for example. I can be really nervous if I'm going out on stage and I know that I'm not at my 100% capacity, because then, you can't do it justice and stuff like that. So I hope that answers your question, but I don't do anything specific. I guess if I'm really stressed out about something, I might have a beer, which is totally the opposite advice that I would give any singer. But sometimes it just chills me out. Have a glass of wine or something. Hope that answers your question, Emma. Thanks for asking. Sharon says, 10th year for me in Shrewsbury. All right. Nice one, Sharon. Looking forward to seeing you in January. What was the one thing that led you to music as a career? Firstly, quick plug, Sharon. I'm doing my 1971 show in Shrewsbury, if you don't already have tickets. Next April, 1971 the show at Shrewsbury Theatre 7. And it's on I think it's the 1st of April, is it? It's on the website anyway. Yeah, 1st of April at Theatre 7 in the small theatre there. 1971 the show. Please come see it. This sounds cheesy, but I never decided that music was going to be my career. It just happened, and I always knew that was going to be the case. Like, since I was 4 or 5 years old, I was always singing, And then when I was at school, I was doing school concerts, and then I was in the school play, and then I was in the local theatre company, and then I was in a band when I was 14, and I was doing gigs. And I never went, I'm going to do this for a job. I just did it, you know? And so, yeah, I know it sounds cheesy, but it just chose me, you know? I just had music in me. You know, and it's funny how these things work. You know, I always loved singing, and that was it. And I still do. I still love singing. I love singing, especially with other people, singing in harmony with other people. I mean, what a joy to be able to do that for a job. There's just nothing better, you know. So yeah, I mean, I can't really pinpoint one specific thing. There was loads of things that inspired me along the way, you know, living in Reading, going to Reading Festival every year, 10 years in a row, watching all these amazing bands, going to see Paul McCartney and going to see Queen and you know, all these bands totally inspired me. But I can't pinpoint like one specific thing. But thank you for the question. Dora says, would you consider acting? Maybe playing Robert Plant? I mean, I definitely would consider it. I don't know if I'm good or crap, but I guess we'll find out in October, won't we? Colin Fleming. Hi, Colin. Colin says, do you have a favourite lead guitarist? I think if you had to, like, gun to my head, I think it would probably be Dave Gilmour. I've never had such a physical reaction to somebody playing the guitar in a room as that man. When I went to see him, I got to see him twice on the tour he just did last year. It was the first time I'd seen him, and I've been a Pink Floyd fan my whole life. And he came out, and there's like a bit of an intro, like some synthy thing, and he comes out and he did one bend. He went, boom, and I started crying. I just started crying my eyes out. There's something in the way that he moves his fingers and the way that he moves the air that just touches me in a way that I can't explain. And he makes that thing talk. And the other one that would be very close to that would be Jeff Beck. Getting to see Jeff play live a couple of times, it was just like a songbird, you know? And it just yeah, I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. They play guitar in a way, you know, total. That's kind of what I was just speaking about. They don't need to think about what they're doing, do they? It's just total mastery of their instrument that they can just be in the moment and make these magical sounds and make people feel things. And that's what I try and do with singing, you know. And so, yeah, they would be my top two, I think, mate. I've never seen Jimmy Page play live, unfortunately. But that would probably be my top. But Brian May, I mean, there's so many, isn't there? Judy says, hi Jesse, we're coming to 1971 show in December. Can I ask if you're doing any Mark Bolan songs? He was one of my favourite back in the day. Best Day 70s, another Gone Too Soon. I love Mark Bolan, and yes, we usually do a T-Rex song from 1971. We usually do Get It On. I don't know if we're playing it in December because I haven't written the set list yet. You'll have to wait and see. So, yeah. Kim says, I'm sure I've seen you play mouth organ, Jesse, or am I wrong? I have played like harmonica before, but I wouldn't call myself a harmonica player. I just sort of blow and hope. Mandy says, what would your parents have played on the radio stereo in the car when you were growing up? I grew up on Rainbow Thin Lizzy and Meatloaf. Or do you think that has influenced the artist you've become? Absolutely. I mean, my dad is a massive music fan, and he had a huge influence on me musically. And my mum, to be fair, they both love music. And my mum had a guitar, and she always laughs when I say that because I always say she had a guitar rather than she played guitar because she didn't play very often, bless her. But she did when she was younger. But my dad brought me up on the Beatles, on Bowie, on Eric Clapton, Queen. And then I think as you get a little bit older, you start to find your own stuff that you love. Like for me, like I really got into Led Zeppelin when I was sort of in my early 20s, which my dad was never that into. But yeah, definitely would have been the Beatles, Bryan Adams, Queen, Bowie, all the good stuff. Mike says, would you ever bring your podcast back? Kaz and I love listening on long journeys. I loved doing the podcast. I think sometimes you just have to choose your poison, Mike. So I think this right now is so easy to do. Just go live, go online. It doesn't take much setting up. And who knows, if I end up doing this more often, maybe I'll get some guests on and we can have a chat on here. And that basically is a podcast, isn't it? I mean, this is essentially a podcast, just me, isn't it? Stream of consciousness podcast. So yeah. What is your thoughts on the Dr. Feelgood musical that's on tour at the moment? I haven't seen it and I have no idea, I'm afraid. So I can't give my opinion on that one. Mandy says, being a frontman, to me you seem humble, articulate and kind, not arrogant. Not at all. Oh, that's so lovely. How do you turn on the swagger on stage? Well, I don't think you have to be a dick to have swagger, you know. I think I think like Mick Jagger's probably a nice guy, isn't he? I think I just become a bit of a different person on stage, you know. It's just like an elevated. It's like The Mask, Jim Carrey, you know. You put that mask on, you get that adrenaline, and you just become this sort of larger than life thing, you know. And again, it's confidence. It's not arrogance. It's confidence. The difference between arrogance and confidence is when a confident person walks in the room, they make everybody feel better, right? And when an arrogant person walks in the room, they make everyone else feel smaller, and they take energy away from the room. Whereas a confident person comes out and they make everyone feel like they have more energy and everything's great. And you know, I love being on stage, you know, and I'm confident. I've done it thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of hours. So I'm really confident up there. That's where I feel most free, and it's just a joy to be up there. So, you know, I've got no need to be arrogant, you know. I'm not better than any other musician out there. I just love what I do. So, yeah. And then it's just play as well, isn't it? You know, you're pretending to be, you know, it depends on the song as well, doesn't it? If you're singing like a really sexy song, then you wanna flaunt it a bit, and you know, if you're singing a really dramatic song, you want to play up to that drama, you know. So I just love what I do. I think that's the be all and end all of it. But thank you for saying so, Mandy. I try. I'm sure if you ask my partner, she won't say I'm always those things. Vicky says I play the harmonica too. That is very true. I kind of forgot about that. Naive Steve 5722 says, evening Jesse, I bumped into the Specials tribute band in Greg's on the M56 last week. What's the strangest place you've been recognised? The strangest place that I've been recognised, I think in a Sports Direct once. I was getting an England shirt printed for a gift for somebody, and I got a Are You Jesse Smith from the Classic Rock Show in a Sports Direct. That's a weird one, isn't it? But it's always lovely. Honestly, like genuinely, like sometimes when I'm walking the dog, I'll bump into somebody in Ealing or whatever who's a fan of the show, and it's just lovely, you know. I love having time for people. I wanted to talk about this anyway, because it just reminded me then, because my whole feed has just been full of Glenn Hazard stuff this week, and I was so sad that he passed away, as I'm sure many of you are, and I mean, you don't need me to tell you, amazing songwriter, amazing voice, just sang every song like it was his last, you know, and just meant every word, and he sang from the sort of depths of his soul, and I was so lucky to have got to see him live. I saw him at Hammersmith Apollo with Eddie Vedder, and it was just amazing. But I think that the thing that I've sort of loved about seeing this week was his humanity, and the way that he would just go and play down the pub and just still, even as famous as he was, just busk and play for people and chat to people and big people up and and just generally be lovely to people, you know. And I think that's what's inspired me the most this week, like thinking about him and how amazing he was. Just the way that he connected people, and I didn't know him. I wish I'd have got to have met him, but that's really come across, and that's what I kind of took away from it all, was that people loved him so much because he was so available and so able to connect with people. And I think I want to take a leaf out of that book and try and do that more. I mean, I do that anyway. That's why I'm doing it right now, speaking to you guys. I don't really have any agenda for this, apart from to grow my YouTube channel a little bit. Do you know what I mean? Please subscribe if you haven't already. But you see what I mean? I sort of went off piece there thinking about Glenn Hazard, but yeah. Hi, Ben. Ben says, when you're watching or listening to other live singers, do you find yourself judging their singing technique? Also, Battle of Evermore in St Pancras Church in a couple of weeks would be awesome. That would be awesome. That's a cool tune. From Led Zeppelin 4, of course, from 1971. I had to send a thing to the guys today to say I need to chop a few songs off the set list because I think it was about 3 hours long. So I don't know if we'll be able to do that one, mate. But to answer the first bit of the question, I wouldn't say that I judge other singers' technique, but I would say I notice it. So there's a few people that I see and I go, oh, I wish I could tell you this. But I never would, obviously, because they're way more famous and successful than me. But even people that I've worked with in the past, and I'm like, I wish I could just tell them this because it would really help them if they did this and it would make it easier or whatever. But I wouldn't say I judge other singers because some of my favourite artists aren't the best singers, Would you say, Bob Dylan is not a singer? He's an amazing songwriter and I love his voice. Some people hate his voice, but I just love listening to the way he delivers songs. Same with Joni Mitchell. I mean, her voice is just so unique and so beautiful, but you wouldn't call her a classic singer in the sense like Celine Dion or Aretha Franklin is a classic singer, So I definitely don't judge, mate, but I do notice other singers' technique, and I wish I could help them more sometimes. And some people have asked me, other singers have asked me, like, how do you do this? And I'm always willing to give some advice on vocal technique and stuff if I think I can help. We've got PETG12340. Hi Jesse, I've been to the Classic Rock Show for about 10 years in total now. Amazing, man. Thank you so much. But I've just got a couple of tickets to your 1971 show in St Pancras Church in a couple of weeks. Man, that's amazing. Please come and say hi. Would love to see you there. How do you deal with high temperatures during performing? Are there fans on stage? This is from Stian Tuja. This is a weird one. I actually like the heat, especially if it's a moist heat. So, for example, we did a gig in Malta once by the harbour. It was boiling, and then we were surrounded by water. We actually got a boat to the stage. It was really cool. My voice felt amazing because it's like steaming the whole time, right? And I wore like plastic leather pants on that gig. It was before I had my proper leather pants. So I actually don't mind, and like it's kind of like a workout, isn't it? And but it affects other people differently, right? Really badly. Obviously, if I get too hot, quite often these days I'll have like a jacket on and then like a vest underneath, and I'll just take the jacket off if I get too hot. But again, it's a show, so I don't like I would never knowingly, unless it was a very stylistic thing, like wear shorts on stage. I always joke about it, you should never wear shorts on stage. Obviously, some people, that's like their vibe. Like if you're in the streets, that's really cool because that's their whole vibe. Do you know what I mean? But like if you're in a rock band and you're playing rock songs, doing classic rock, I don't think shorts are acceptable unless you're like on a very hot stage and you're on the drums. That might be the only time. But to answer your question, yeah, sometimes we do have fans on stage. The worst thing is like when it starts melting the guitar stuff, you know, and the guitar pedals start turning off because they're too hot. That's happened before when we've been in like Bulgaria and stuff, and the pedal boards start overheating. Sorry, I'm skipping through these questions. Linda says, will any of the classic rock tracks ever go on Spotify? I don't know. Got no idea. Absolutely no idea. You'd have to ask James that question. Would you ever write a follow-up to TMO, which is one of my songs I wrote with the quotes? I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm always writing new songs, mate. So I don't know what a follow-up would be like. Do you mean like a kind of after the fact? I mean, it's a love song, TMO, and it's kind of about like being in love and kind of the point where you get married. So, and obviously I'm getting married next year, so maybe I'll write a song after I'm married, and we'll see. Kim says, I get annoyed at people who put tribute bands down. Do you feel the same, Jesse? And then, sorry, she carried on. Most tribute bands I've seen, and they're usually amazing. It's a funny one, isn't it? Because I think the musicianship in some tribute bands is absolutely incredible, but it's like an optics thing. And obviously, I used to do bootleg Led Zeppelin for many years, and I never ever felt comfortable pretending to be someone else on stage. Like, for some reason, I don't know what it is. Even though you could say when you're playing a character and you're an actor, you're playing somebody else. I don't know what it is when it comes to music. When you pretend to be someone else and you do like isms of that person, I think it's always going to have an element of cheesiness. I didn't have the same feeling when I sing Led Zeppelin with the Classic Rock Show, or when I sing Led Zeppelin with Led Zeppelin Symphonic, because I'm not trying to pretend to be somebody else. And I told that to the guys in the band when I was in the band. And I guess that's part of the reason why I decided to leave, because I just when you're a singer, especially even more so than being a guitarist, bass player, drummer, you're putting yourself out into the universe. It's your body, it's your voice, it's your emotion and feeling, and you can't do that with genuine truth when you're pretending to be somebody else, I don't think. And I think that's why people think it's cheesy, because it lacks a truth, because you're not that person. Because being you doing that song is the genuine thing, and that's beautiful, isn't it? You know, that's lovely. So I think that's why I don't put them down, but I understand why people think they're cheesy or whatever. If it was me personally, I would rather go and see a show where people play the music brilliantly rather than dress up in a costume. But then I'm going to totally contradict myself and say that I absolutely love the bootleg Beatles and I've seen them about 10 times. At least I admit I'm a hypocrite. Colin says, hi mate, we heard another one of Banksy's tracks the other night. This is Wayne Banks, everybody, bass player from the Class Rock Show. With Jess, did you collab with Wayne on any of his new tracks? I did not, but they're brilliant. Go and check them out. I've heard them; they're great. We've had pissed up nights on the tour bus listening to it. It's brilliant. Laura says, thanks for brightening up my Monday night, Jesse. It is an absolute pleasure. I am going to go soon, guys, because I just realised I've been on air for over an hour already. You guys are amazing. So many questions. I still haven't got to the end of the comments. Any news of more Romances songs to be released? They're all so good. That is so lovely. I love Romances. I was literally playing one of the songs yesterday on acoustic in my living room. We have got songs that aren't released yet, and we should release them. It's just a case of getting them done. So yeah, we really should do that. Thanks for the reminder. Julie says, I'm going to rattle through these guys as quickly as I can now. Julie says, hi, Jesse. My husband, Ray, would like to... Hi, Ray. Would like to know if you've ever fallen off the stage. Yep. I think I fell off the stage when I was about 13 doing a production of My Fair Lady at Little Heath School. I think I fell off the stage then. I fell over many times on stage. Once I was doing Thriller Live in the West End Michael Jackson musical. It was my bow. It was Michael Jackson's birthday. I fist bumped and sort of kissed towards the sky like that. Closed my eyes. I was so sweaty. My hair went in my face. I was disorientated and I fell to my knees on the stage during my bow. And everyone thought I just was trying to be cool. And like everyone was like, "You're really into your bow tonight, man." And that totally fell over. And I also got a brand new pair of leather pants at Cadogan Hall. I don't think it was the year before last. And I did a kick, like a kind of scissor kick. I went bam, bam with my legs. And the pants were real, proper, really thick, awesome leather. And as I kicked this leg, it brought they were so tight and strong that it brought my other leg with it. And it totally knocked me off my feet. And I sort of fell onto my back and did a backwards roly-poly out of it. And the whole audience went, because it looked really bad. So, yeah, I mean, I've fallen over loads of times and smacked myself in the head with a microphone and dropped my microphone and injured myself. I mean, everything you can imagine, I've done, Julie. Crowd surfed, dived into a crowd, mosh pit, all of it. When you're given new songs for a tour, how long does it take for you to learn them? I like as much time as possible because for me it's about repetition and knowing it really, really well. So it's with something like the Classic Rock Show, usually months in advance. For something like War of the Worlds, I have like some lines, obviously some dialogue, and then like one really long sort of 10-minute song. And I've learnt it already over the last sort of 4 weeks, and the tour's not until October. And I'm just basically doing it every day. Every day I'll do it at least once. Although I haven't done it today, I should do that. Mandy, on that same note, Mandy said his set list nailed down for CRS 27. Absolutely not. We haven't been sent anything yet. We haven't even started discussing it yet. It's normally around September, October we start talking about it. We've got Noah. Hi, Noah. Noah says, which rock bands do you enjoy listening to? I go through phases, mate, but I really love the Beatles, man. I know they're not technically rock. I love Led Zeppelin. I love The Who. What else do I love? I love Biffy Clyro, if we're talking modern bands. So, yeah. Sharon's got her tickets for 1971 The Show. Thank you very much, Sharon. Colin. Hi, Colin. Colin says, hi, Jesse. Which female vocalist do you most admire? In terms of pure singing vocalist vibes, not my type of music at all. I don't listen to it, to be honest. But I admire Celine Dion massively because I just love her technique. I love watching her sing, if that makes sense. I'm not even into her tunes, but I love watching her sing. Aretha Franklin, same vibe. I think she's just absolutely incredible. Then I love Stevie Nicks. I love Heart. I love listening to Heart. I think her voice is wicked. And I, as I've mentioned several times on this stream already, I absolutely love Joni Mitchell. I love Carole King. There's loads of amazing female artists, isn't there? Shout out Bonnie Tyler as well. R.I.P. Next question. I just mentioned that. I didn't see that. Am I correct in thinking that you and the Classic Rock Show will be paying tribute to Bonnie Tyler in next year's set list? I would have thought so, but I don't know is the honest answer. Right, I'm going to do a couple more questions, guys, and then I'm going to shoot. Colin says, hi, Jesse. Tours such as yours with the Classic Rock Show are extensive. Lots of great concerts, lots of travelling and being away from home. Is it exhausting, or does the thrill of it keep you energised? It is exhausting, Colin. And sometimes it can be really challenging. It's obviously, it's the best job in the world. So sometimes you know, you can't moan too much because because you literally have the best job in the world. You're singing for a job. So, but it can get really difficult physically. It can be really tough. I guess I don't have kids, but I guess it could be like having a new kid. You just don't get proper sleep. You're always being, you know, when you're sleeping on a tour bus, especially, you're kind of your quality of sleep is never that good, so you're never fully recovered. It's very easy to get ill, especially at the time of year that we tour, which is like January, February. So it can be quite tough. The show definitely is the thing that keeps us energized. The adrenaline, the better the crowd is, the bigger the audience, the more responsive. Excuse me. The better it is for us, 100%. So yeah, it's hard sometimes, but it's great. I love Angus Young as well. Yes. Serena says, do you sit and study the way that rock stars move and act out each song? No, I don't. She says, does it come naturally to you? I wouldn't say it's either or, to be honest. I think it's more that I've sort of been a student of rock and roll since I was a child, but without even meaning to. You know, think of the amount of hours that I've watched bands. Like I said, when I used to go to Reading Festival, literally 10 years in a row, and I saw so many bands, hundreds of bands, come through that festival. Bands like Foo Fighters and Kings of Leon and Queens of the Stone Age and Pulp and Nine Inch Nails and Guns N' Roses and people like that. And then I've seen Paul McCartney loads of times and you know, watched Freddie Mercury for hours on TV and Michael Jackson and Led Zeppelin, and I think it just filters through, you know. And then obviously I have a natural way of performing, and then all these things sort of become part of who you are, you know. Even people that are nothing to do with rock music, you know, like the Streets, for example. I know I talked about them earlier. I just think he's one of the most charismatic, incredible front people ever, you know, like in the world. Like when I go and see the Streets, he doesn't look like he should be a front man. He literally has shorts on, and he comes out and he sticks his phone in his keys on the drum riser, and then he starts, and then it's just like, it's just the most amazing thing you've ever seen. You know, he's so charismatic, and everyone in the room, like, use that thing about confidence and bringing people in, and you know, so yeah. Yeah, I hope that answers the question. So I don't study like on purpose, but I think it just filters through. Couple more. Hair up or down for your wedding? Oh, me, 100% down. I only wear my hair up if I'm playing sport or, yeah, I'm really lazy. But no. Man buns are not cool. You heard it here first. Thank you. I've got I'm reading all these guys, but I can't answer every single one of them. Ben says, who's the most famous contact in your phone? I pulled Bruce Dickinson's out of a WhatsApp group we were both in 9 years ago, and occasionally pretend I'm going to text him. That's really funny. The most famous person, oh, I don't know. The most famous person in my phone. I'd have to think about that. I've probably got a few famous-ish people on here. That might have to be a question for another day. I can't think off the top of my head. Because I don't want to, like, pretend I know somebody really famous if I don't. But, can you hear my dog crying in the background? Oh, I don't know. I've got some pretty famous people on here for sure. I just can't think off the top of my head. Anyway. Text me his number. One more question. Paul says, please ask Rick Wayman to include Julia in next year's show. I would love to hear you do that. I saw you doing Arthur and you smashed it. Thank you so much. I love singing with Rick. I haven't got the set list for next year yet. So, yeah, let's see what he comes up with. It's supposed to be like a mixed bag of different stuff from his career. So, hopefully there'll be some interesting stuff there. One more. Was gutted that you aren't doing Goat Fest in Codicote this year. We'll miss you. We miss you too. I love playing that festival. It's always really fun. Naive Steve says, Jesse, behind you, I recognise your 335 in Gibson, but not seen the PRS before. Yeah, so this little guitar, I was in Italy and I went from one tour straight to another. So I didn't have a bus, basically. Usually I would stick a guitar on the bus or in the truck. But because I went straight from another tour and I was flying, I didn't have a guitar. So I think I was in Italy. And I just bought this. I just found it in a shop. To be honest, I'm not normally a PRS guy. But I found this little guitar and I just loved it. I thought it was beautiful. And I can't remember. I think it was like 400 quid or something like that. And I just picked it up. And it's totally out of tune. But it was really lovely. It was when I was doing my 100 songs in 100 days thing. And I just wanted a guitar so I could keep doing that and keep putting out songs on my social media and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a beautiful little guitar actually. And like I said, I never thought I would be a PRS owner, but I love this guitar. The inlay's beautiful. So yeah, there we go. Sometimes guitars just choose you, don't they? One more question, then we're done. Gabriel says, are molded in-ear monitors worth the money? I'm wearing them right now. I wear them. I use mine all the time, Gabriel, but it all just depends on what you're doing. I obviously do a lot of gigs where I'm on a big stage, where you might be performing with an orchestra or you might be performing with a band where there is no monitoring, so you have to have in-ear monitors, or on a festival where they run in-ear monitors. So it's just, for me, they're absolutely vital. And the difference between molded ones and generic in-ear monitors is the leakage. So these are about minus 28 dB, which is a volume thing. If those of you guys who are wondering what I'm talking about, so these basically will block the sound, and so you're not only hearing stuff in your ears, you're protecting yourself from the outside noise, and you're stopping the spillage getting into your ears. So what I would say is, if you're using them regularly and you're using them with bands on gigs and big stages, they're definitely worth the money. If you're just starting out, or you're doing smallish gigs, or you just want to try and get used to them, you can find cheap ones. I think there's ones, I think they're called Easies or something you get on Amazon, and they're literally like 50 quid or something, 40 quid. And I'm sure they do a great job, rather than spending, £1,200 or £800 on a set of these. Speaking of Bruno, my dog, when he was a puppy, the first time we ever left him, he chewed through the cable of these, which the cable alone is £120. That was the first thing. It was hanging off the side of my studio, and he literally chewed through it. It was in our old flat. That was the only thing he chewed through. I was really happy about that at the time. All right, everybody. Ben says, can you close the live stream with Wonderwall? Absolutely not. That's really funny. But thank you for asking. You're so funny, Ben. Thank you, everybody, so much for tuning in. Like I said, I'm going to try and do these a bit more regularly, especially when I've got a bit more time. I really appreciate all your questions. If you're watching later on and you've got a burning question, either keep it for next time or feel free to drop it in the comments on YouTube, and I'll try and get back to you. If it's a burning question, you can contact me via my contact page on my website. And again, I'll try to get back to all of you guys. I really appreciate you all watching. Hope to see you all very, very soon. If you want to get tickets for any of my shows, all the information is available on my website. I'm doing War of the Worlds in October. I'm doing the London Symphonic Rock Orchestra in November. I am doing Rick Wakeman in February. I'm doing the Classic Rock Show in January. I'm doing 1971 The Show. This month, we've got two shows, Twinwood Festival and St Pancras Old Church. And a couple more shows in December, a solo show with my original music and a 1971 show. I think that's it for now. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, peace and love, everybody. Good night.